Hello, dear friends. In matters of style, swim with the current. In matters of principles, stand firm as a rock. Opinion piece. Evolutionary Leap. Feeling lethargic. Time for reflection. Ascending collective. Signs are everywhere. Resistance to transition. Collective energy purge. Economic and spiritual ascension. Egypt expropriates St. Catherine Monastery. Let's start. In these times of profound turmoil, a great transformation is emerging on the horizon, driven by a vision of collective emancipation, according to the Galactic Press team. The old system, built on the structures of control, endless debt, and manipulation, is crumbling under the pressure of an awakening collective consciousness worldwide. This is not merely an economic shift, but an evolutionary leap inscribed in the ascension of Earth and humanity toward a more harmonious and sovereign reality. The foundations of a restrictive world order, driven by central banks, orchestrated wars, and digital destructions, are losing their hold. A new paradigm is emerging behind the scenes, aligned with the principles of justice, freedom, and abundance. This movement, often referred to as Gisara, embodies a global reset, not imposed by fear, but guided by a desire for unity and truth. This renewal is based on 6 fundamental pillars. First, the liberation of debt, allowing each individual to regain their financial sovereignty. Second, the dissolution of oppressive tax systems, replaced by equitable structures. Third, the return to currencies backed by tangible assets such as gold, to restore trust. Fourth, the reaffirmation of universal rights, aligned with just and constitutional laws. Fifth, the promotion of lasting peace on a global scale. Sixth, the revelation of hidden technologies placed at the service of humanity. This transition is not without resistance. The old structures, aware of their decline, cling to chaos to maintain their power. However, humanity's drive toward freedom is unstoppable. Nations unite, consciousness elevates, and cosmic energies support this transition to a higher reality. This is not the work of an individual or a nation, but a collective movement driven by those who dare to see beyond illusions. Fear, accusations, and distractions cannot stop this wave of transformation. Every step toward this new reality is an act of courage, an affirmation that humanity is ready to claim its right to a free and fulfilling existence. The Golden Age is not glimpsed in the distant future. It begins now. Every awakened consciousness contributes to consolidating this paradigm, where time, work, and the future belong to each individual. This reset is not an end, but the beginning, an invitation to co-create a world where abundance, peace, and truth prevail. May this vision inspire every heart to align with the frequency of unity and freedom. Purge. A purge and release of collective energy is taking place according to Ascension light workers. This supports the influx of high planetary frequencies received during recent portals. Starseeds may be experiencing feelings of lethargy and lack of motivation in certain areas of their lives, as well as possibly feeling lost or confused. We are in a period of solace, a time of reflection, meditation, and conscious evolution. Over the next few days, we will thoroughly analyze all areas of our lives and make the conscious decision to elevate ourselves. This is an opportune time for honest self-examination, free of guilt and shame. We merge into the frequencies of opportunity to clear any residue of the past. The ascending collective has entered higher dimensional timelines. Some human beings may experience sudden bouts of anger, sadness, resentment, and anxiety, which can result in excessive emotionality and sudden spontaneous crying, experiencing sadness. In addition, irritability and anger may arise for no apparent reason. This is a temporary state, as major shifts in consciousness are taking place as old, outdated ways continue to crumble. Those who ascend and overcome anxiety often experience what is known as wait mode. This means that they find it difficult to accomplish tasks because they may be distracted by awareness of upcoming appointments, causing anxiety, impatience, and sensory overload for a time. Releasing the past version of self brings pain. It is understandable to feel loss and sadness for a time. There are no shortcuts to this stage of the journey. The greatest investment is in oneself. As your frequency rises and your intuition strengthens, you notice how much the energy of others affects you. The more spiritually attuned you are, the more sensitive you are to energy in general, so you stay in pure, sacred, and small cycles. For some ascending souls, the current energies may feel heavy and difficult to manage. However, for others, they may also feel light and inspiring. There is a sense of rebirth and the opportunity for new beginnings. External disharmony has caused imbalance within some people. Healing is never linear. It may seem chaotic. Some days you will feel good and others you won't. Take each day as it comes. Trusting in the ascension process helps navigate these times of change here on our transforming planet. Full thought summary. President Trump once again threatened 50% tariffs on all EU exports to the US. Ursula von der Leyen asked him to wait until July 9th. This is a very specific date, implying that some surprise is planned for before then. This could be related to a planned trip to Taiwan by P3 Freemasons and a representative of the White Dragon Society to meet with Asian elders. In preparation for this trip, meetings are being held in Milan, Zurich, Moscow, Tel Aviv, and Washington. According to P3 sources, it has been decided to open a bank account at the World Federation. This will free up unlimited funds to establish a new future planning organization and fund a jubilee or a one-time cancellation of all debt, public and private. This will not be a secret agreement. An international and public meeting will be held to define exactly how this will be carried out, with the full participation of the peoples and nations of the world. As a backup plan, the Five Eyes Army is preparing for a crash landing in the West following the possible public announcement of the bankruptcy of the US corporation. This would entail a sudden and drastic drop in living standards as the price to pay to escape the Chinese debt trap. The G7 finance ministers issued a statement on May 22nd that made it clear that this is not a business as usual. It referred to unsustainable global macroeconomic imbalances. It also called for economic growth from which all our citizens can benefit, implying that they are aware that the middle class is being plundered by the super rich. The official G7 text alludes to a future planning agency. It is also interesting to note that the communique made no mention of carbon trading or weather change. This is a clear sign that a fundamental change of course has taken place. New Zealand reversed its net zero emissions ambition by lifting the ban on oil and gas extraction. The US is unlikely to last long in its current form. If the Department of Energy is now under the control of experts, they may talk about unleashing hydrogen energy. This would put an end to the current trend toward electric cars, led by China. In a sign that the era of electric cars is coming to an end, the German E-Mobility Association, which represents 450 companies, has filed for bankruptcy. However, before negotiations with China on issues like hydrogen are concluded, the West still needs to end its undeclared civil war. This seems about to happen. On July 15th, China will introduce an Internet ID system that it claims will protect consumers from fraud, but also raises fears to totalitarian control by making anonymous Internet browsing difficult. According to Benjamin Fulford, making the US great again requires eliminating significant waste. This is only politically possible by declaring bankruptcy. This would not mean the end of the US, but rather the end of the American corporation and the rebirth of the restored American Republic. Breaking news. President Trump has asked Netanyahu to resign so the Iran peace deal can move forward. FBI Director Kash Patel reveals that the Chinese and Russians won't let him sleep at night. Crop failures and food inflation continue to drive up prices around the world while the monetary system is being restructured. The signs are everywhere. Trump is trying to create a big, beautiful budget that caused interest rates in the bond market to skyrocket while the Fed cut them. This means that the Fed no longer controls the financial markets. Some signs of AI model collapse are beginning to emerge. The collapse is due to the accumulation of mistakes, with each model inheriting and expanding on the flaws of previous versions, generating distorted data. The 1997 film Conspiracy Theory, starring Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts, has a lot to offer us today. The globalist agenda was in full swing, and they managed to spread it in an entertaining film. The original script centers on an eccentric taxi driver who believes many world events are caused by government conspiracies. The EU suspends $736 million to crush free speech, control what we say, and silence truth. According to a shocking report titled Manufacturing Disinformation, the EU-funded propaganda war on free speech by Dr. Norman Lewis, 349 EU projects have been meticulously designed to crush dissent, enforce ideological loyalties, and consolidate the narrative of a world government. They are not mere programs, but ideological weapons designed to reprogram minds. Expropriation. Egypt expropriates St. Catherine's Monastery, located at the foot of Mount Sinai after 15 centuries of autonomy. On May 28, 2025, a court in Ismailia, Egypt, issued a ruling officially transferring the Orthodox monastery of St. Catherine, founded in the 6th century by Emperor Justinian, to the Egyptian state. This decision ends more than 1500 years of autonomy for the monastery, considered one of the oldest Christian monastic centers in the world and the spiritual jewel of Eastern Christianity. This news has shocked me because I have a spiritual connection to that monastery. The court ruling ordered the confiscation of all the monastery's assets, including properties, libraries, relics, manuscripts, and priceless icons. Management of the site is now under state control, and the 20 monks who make up the community are restricted from certain spaces, allowing them to remain only for liturgical purposes and under conditions imposed by civil authorities. St. Catherine's Monastery is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and has been a symbol of interfaith coexistence and respect for centuries. Traditionally considered sacred sites respected by Islam, it had enjoyed the protection of Bedouin communities and the Egyptian state itself, even in times of political turmoil. According to tradition and historical documents preserved at the monastery, Muhammad ordered that this monastery be protected and respected after Muslim expansion. A document known as the Name of Muhammad is preserved, which is a decree issued by the Prophet Muhammad himself to the monastery, guaranteeing its protection, religious freedom, and tax exemption from monks and Christian pilgrims. Analysts point the influence of so-called Egyptian deep state groups, particularly since the era of the Muslim Brotherhood, which seek to limit the autonomy of non-Muslim institutions. The decision has sparked strong international reactions. Greece has expressed outrage of what it considers an attack on a symbol of Hellenism and Orthodoxy. The Greek Orthodox Archbishop of Athens, Hieronymus, and the Ecumenical Patriarchate of Constantinople have expressed their profound rejection of the measure. The library of this monastery is one of the oldest and most valuable in the world, recognized for its historical, religious, and cultural significance. It houses the second largest collection of ancient codices and manuscripts in the world, surpassed only by the Vatican Library. The collection includes thousands of volumes written in Greek, Coptic, Arabic, Armenian, Hebrew, Georgian, Syriac, and other languages, with a total of many thousand copies. And the number is not calculated. The exact number is not calculated, but some speak between 3,000 and 6,000. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.